We will go ahead with introductions. Thank you, Marianne, for getting us live on YouTube. Good morning, everybody. This is the Appropriations Committee in the Maine Legislature, and we are here this morning to have a public hearing on a couple of bills related to the American Recovery Plan Act, also known as ARPA. So before we get started, we will start by having our colleagues introduce themselves. Representative Fecto, would you like to get us started?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I'm Justin Fecto, and I represent House District 86, which is part of Augusta.
Representative Fay.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jessica Fay. I represent House District 66, which is parts of the towns of Casco, Poland, and Raymond.
Representative Arata, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Amy Arata, and I represent House District 65, which includes New Gloucester and part of Poland.
Representative Hymanson.
Good morning. I'm Patty Hymanson. I represent House District 4, which is parts of York, Wells, Sanford, and all of Ogunquit.
Representative Millett.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Soren Millett. I represent House District 71, towns of Norway, Sweden, Waterford, and West Paris.
Representative Cloutier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I am Christian Cloutier, and I represent House District 60, part of my hometown of Lewiston.
Representative Cardone.
Hello, I'm Barbara Cardone. I represent House District 127, part of Bangor.
Representative Martin. Oh, you're on mute, Representative Martin.
Okay, am I back now?
You're good.
Yeah, John Martin, House District 151, northwestern of Aroostook County. By the way, where there's hail right now.
Oh my goodness. How about Senator Davis?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Davis. I represent Senate District 4, which is all of Piscataquis and parts of Somerset and Penobscot.
Senator Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Donna Bailey. I represent Senate District 31, which is Saco, Old Orchard Beach, Hollis, Leamington, and part of Buxton.
And my co-chair, Representative Peirce.
Hello, I'm Teresa Peirce. I represent District 44, which is the majority of Falmouth, and I serve as the House Chair of Appropriations and Financial Affairs. And it's good to see everybody.
And again, good morning. My name is Kathy Breen. I represent 6.5 communities in Cumberland County in the Maine Senate, and I serve as Senate Chair of Appropriations. We are assisted, as always, by our wonderful staff, our committee clerk, Marianne McMaster, and our committee analyst, Maureen Dawson. And as I mentioned at the top of our meeting, we are gathered for a public hearing and there's Representative Corey. So we are gathered for a public hearing. We're waiting for the DAFS commissioner because the bills come from the governor's office. Representative Corey, would you like to finish up our introductions and introduce yourself?
Good morning. I'm Patrick Roy, represent House District 25, which is part of Wyndham.
Welcome. Let's see. So let me make sure we have,
I've just moved her over, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to move Mr. Lund over as well.
Here I am.
Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. If you would like to go ahead and introduce your first bill, and welcome, Mr. Lund. I don't know what the order is of you guys speaking, so I'll let the DAFS commissioner direct that.
I'll start. So we're starting with 1697. Is that right? All right. Thank you. It's nice to be here. Nice to see you all. Good morning, Senator Breen, Representative
Peirce and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Appropriations and Financial Affairs. My name is Kirsten Figueroa, and I am the Commissioner of the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. I'm here today to testify in support of LD 1697, an act to establish a homeowner assistance fund program and provide for the distribution of funds. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 includes $9 billion nationwide for the Homeowner Assistance Fund to mitigate financial hardships associated with the coronavirus pandemic by providing funds to eligible entities for the purpose of preventing homeowner mortgage delinquencies, defaults, foreclosures, loss of utilities or home energy services, and displacements of homeowners experiencing financial hardship after January 20th, 2020, through qualified expenses related to mortgages and housing. On behalf of the state of Maine, the Superintendent of the Bureau of Consumer Credit Protection completed the notice of request to receive these funds. The Bureau of Consumer Credit Protection was established to protect the citizens of Maine from unfair and deceptive practices with respect to mortgage lending, consumer credit, and debt collection. The Bureau has a foreclosure prevention and education program that's received 258 calls on the toll-free foreclosure hotline and has mailed informational packages to 18,763 homeowners in default on their home loans. LD 1697 requests that the legislature create a new program and establish allocation authorizing the distribution of the Homeowner Assistance Fund. This request identifies allocation in fiscal years 21, 22, and 23. The state must submit to Treasury a completed half plan or a date by which such plan will be submitted, and Treasury plans to promptly begin reviewing these plans. The 2021 allocation would allow adjustment by financial order if there are any costs associated with the plan development process. U.S. Treasury has released initial guidance documents for this program, which includes identification of qualified expenses, eligible homeowners, and specific targeting of funds. The details of these, as well as links to the U.S. Treasury guidance, are provided on the attached additional information memo. Failure to create this program and allocation will impede Maine's ability to timely receive and distribute the Homeowner Assistance Fund as established in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. I should be clear that these are separate from the discretionary state funds that people talk about, the $1 billion. This is a separate program similar to the separate program that we talked about last time for locals. And so that is why we are looking to establish this separate account. So this concludes my testimony, and I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Forgive me, I was slightly distracted. Is Mr. Lund here to answer questions, or is he going to make any opening remarks?
I have some remarks as well.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and do your remarks?
Great, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Senator Breen, Representative Peirce, and members of the committee. My name is Will Lund, and I serve as Superintendent of Maine's Bureau of Consumer Credit Protection. That's an agency within the Department of Professional and Financial Regulation, and I'm here to speak in support of this measure. It's designed, this bill will establish a state account to receive the federal homeowner assistance monies that are coming to the state from the Treasury as part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Commissioner Figueroa has provided some of the background, the federal legislative background. I'd like to supplement her testimony by explaining why my agency was asked to apply for and administer those funds. Our Bureau currently operates the state's foreclosure prevention hotline, intake, and referral service. When mortgage lenders or servicers send a default notice to a Maine resident, they are required to provide my agency with the name and address of the consumer to whom the notice was sent. We, in turn, every day mail informational letters to those consumers, introducing ourselves and informing the consumers of the existence of the state's counseling program, which is offered to Maine residents without charge to them. When consumers call our office in response to those letters, we spend about 20 minutes on the phone with them, obtaining information necessary to provide assistance, including the name of their mortgage servicer, the status of their mortgage, and the reasons for their delinquency. We also find out about their current income level to assess their ability to begin making payments if we or counselors are able to obtain a loan modification for them. If the case is an emergency, we handle it ourselves right away. For example, some consumers contact us the day before their home is scheduled for a foreclosure auction. If legal intervention is required and if the homeowners meet income guidelines, we make a referral to Pine Tree Legal Assistance. However, if the consumers are simply behind in their payments, and if we believe that they need assistance in applying for a loan modification or a deferral or some other remedy, then we send the information directly to one of many nonprofit counseling agencies around the state whom we have under contract. Entities such as Community Concepts, Aroostook County Action Program, KVCAP, Penquist, and Down East Community Partners. Those agencies have HUD-trained housing counselors who know how to help each consumer put together an application for a loan modification or other proposal. We also have the regulatory authority to provide backup if a mortgage servicer or lender is not assisting in a way that's required by state or federal law or regulation, since we license and conduct compliance examinations on mortgage lenders and mortgage servicers. We've operated the foreclosure prevention hotline program for nearly 12 years now, and during that time, we have supported and maintained a statewide network of counselors. For that reason, I agreed with those who felt that our agency was in a good position to serve as a conduit for the upcoming federal foreclosure prevention funds. The basic structure of my proposal will be to build out the existing network of CAP agencies and other nonprofits around the state, and to assign to them the task of interacting directly with the homeowners who are in default. My office will enter into contracts with each nonprofit in which they will certify to us that they'll follow the strict federal guidelines when they accept applications and distribute monies either to consumers or to their lenders or loan servicers. I've already been in touch with many of the state's nonprofit housing counseling agencies to determine their level of interest in participating. I've also engaged in many conversations with Maine Housing, with Dan Brennan, Denise Lord, and others in order to learn from them and from their experiences in operating a rental assistance program, which took place earlier this year. And I participated in calls with the U.S. Treasury and with state agency officials around the country to obtain information, to share forms and guidelines, and to learn about their plans, since Treasury has indicated they'd like to see some level of uniformity among states in administering the funds. The overriding message that we receive from Treasury is that to the extent possible, they want these funds to be spent on homeowners, not on overhead. I will follow that principle, and I'll require that the nonprofits also operate under that mandate. There's a lot of work to be done. We have to draft application forms. We have to decide what financial limits there will be per household. We'll have to ensure that we're prioritizing applications in the manner set forth by Treasury, and we'll have to get a handle on the record keeping and accounting requirements that are part of accepting federal funds. However, I believe the Bureau is up to the challenge, and I've already had plenty of help in the early stages, having received assistance and advice from the governor's office, from DAF's, from the controller's office, and many others. I appreciate your attention this morning, and I'd be pleased to answer questions either now or at the work session, which I think is set for 1 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lund, and thank you, Commissioner. I already see some hands up from committee members. Just going to take them in the order I see them. Representative Peirce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question for either Commissioner Figueroa or Superintendent Lund. I have two, if I may. One, I'm not familiar that any of the CARES Act or the money that came in from the prior federal aid addressed homeowner and mortgage issues. A lot of rent relief I know came in. Am I correct about that? Or if I'm incorrect, share with me a little bit about that, either of you. And then the only other question I have is, once we're starting to deal with this at the state level, the testimony that you talked about, like people sort of call the day before their house is going to be foreclosed on. I'm wondering if there's a component of sharing this information so that people know it's, available to them, so they don't get into the 11th hour of any situation. And just, a lot of times people don't even know that there are these type of things available to them to use in order to help them get through this crisis moment. So thank you.
I'd be happy to give it a try, Commissioner. I know that our office did not receive any CARES funding directly. Our sources of revenue come from a transfer tax that's applied during a foreclosure auction if a lender purchases its own property back at a foreclosure auction. We have received funds over the 10-year history of the program from some national settlements against mortgage lenders who were caught doing things wrong, but we did not receive any CARES Act. Regarding notification, as I mentioned, we have a very direct way to notify folks, and that is if they receive a default notice, what's called a notice of right to cure default, in which they are told that they are behind, that they need to pay a certain amount in order to catch up and avoid a start of foreclosure options against them. We send them the informational letter right to them, and those in the height of the foreclosure program, there were several hundred letters that were going out each day from our office. It was that level, and so those folks have a letter from us, and whether they decide to use it then or whether they put it aside, they have it and they know about it. Foreclosure is a lengthy process, and by the time folks get toward the end, toward the civil action itself, it may be a year or 2 years beyond. But there is a pretty good general awareness of our program. If folks wait to the last minute, it's because they were hoping for a different outcome at some point along the way.
Thank you. I guess I only would just comment that I would hope that I would encourage this to be more broadly disseminated as an opportunity for people to seek help than just oh, I'm in default and I get the letter. Just because it's nice to, if your neighbor's having a trouble, you might know about it or not. I just worry a little bit about that. I've seen that in some other areas just recently around general assistance and some other things that people just aren't aware of things that are available to them. So I just share that as comment more than anything. Or wouldn't you agree? Excuse me, we're in a public hearing, my bad.
I would certainly agree that more outreach and education is important, but also keep in mind one of the good aspects of having a network now of CAP agencies around the state, from Aroostook to York counties, is because we work with them. They know about the program. They're likely to have a finger on the pulse of problem areas.
Your first question, I haven't done extensive research on it, but I've looked online where we list all of the programs that have come through the various federal acts. And I can clearly see this one, and around it, see the rental assistance, and don't see any other nod to homeowner. So I think that you're right, that the CARES Act did not have this kind of homeowner component.
Thank you.
Representative Fay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's interesting, the more we discuss, the more questions I have. So I have two. The first is sort of relates to Representative Persa's question, which is, I thought I heard Commissioner Figueroa mention other housing issues besides just mortgages around electrical shutoffs, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, whether this funding will be intended just to help with mortgage delinquencies. And then the second question is about the administrative costs. I read a news story this morning about a backlog in rental assistance program applications. And I just want to make sure that we're thinking about how to avoid that type of situation going forward with this program.
I'll start by, I think by pointing to the additional information, which is really everything I know about this fund. And then turn it over to Will, because he possibly, Superintendent Lund, as he's probably done a little bit more deeper dive in here. But it does speak to qualified expenses for the purpose of preventing homeowner mortgage delinquencies, mortgage defaults, mortgage foreclosures, and then it does have loss of utilities and home energy services, but then also says displacements of homeowners who are experiencing financial hardship. And then it goes into, on pages 2 and the top of page 3, some of the more detailed expenses that would be permitted in this fund. But this is about homeowners versus rent assistance. Is that what you mean when you say, is it broader than just homeowners? Because it feels like this is specifically for homeowners versus the rental assistance programs.
I think that answers my question. So this program is targeted at homeowners, but not specifically dedicated to mortgage issues. So
right, because it looks
like there may be other, okay.
Because like number 6 says payment assistance for delinquent property taxes. So not necessarily not making your mortgage payment, but having an issue that might affect your, and
if I could add, that is going to be a bit of a challenge. There will be a lot of folks, frankly, lining up to be recipients under the program. Our office already deals with, we already assist consumers who are facing property tax liens with their municipalities. So that aspect is not unusual to us. It mentions energy costs. I've already received some outreach from electrical suppliers wanting to be a part of that. But it all relates, I think, back to the mortgage. Even internet services is listed in the federal legislation. And I hadn't thought of that as being a necessary utility in the same way as water and electricity, but certainly if you're in more rural areas of the state, it could be deemed important. But that's all going to be, and regarding the program, I've got a lot to learn. Maine has actually done a much better job, as I understand it, in the rental assistance program than other states. Some other states, as recently as last week, didn't even have an office set up to accept rental assistance applications. So I'm hoping there are some advantages to living in Maine, which is we're a big state geographically, but a small state network-wise. And because our office has worked with this particular group and we plan to add a few more, I think we can get underway pretty quickly. But avoiding, it's a balancing act. We are directed not to spend a lot on overhead and get the money to where it's needed most, but also to do a good job and to be able to serve consumers in every region of the state. So somewhere in there is the balance between expenses and effectiveness. But if you've got a clue on how to avoid those backups, I'm all ears and I'm learning as fast as I can.
Senator Bailey and then Representative Arata.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two questions. One is very straightforward, and then the other one is kind of following up on Representatives Peirce and Fay. The first straightforward one is there a time limit under which we have to spend this money, or is it just under the same umbrella as ARPA funds?
Treasury wants us to move very fast on this. There is a requirement for a plan by mid to late June, which is coming up very quickly. My understanding is that Treasury plans to distribute 10% of the funds once the state presents a form of a plan. So that would be 5 million coming into the state. There is an understanding, I think, that of that 5 million, a larger percentage would be used with organizational costs than the balance of the fund later on. So there is an understanding there. But they're anxious. They've said that they want to hear from us by the end of June, but we can apply sooner than that, and they will consider the application sooner than that. In the legislation, you will see that the bulk of the funds are set for receipt and expenditure in the upcoming fiscal year. There's a little bit this year and a little bit the following year beyond that, so that to give us the flexibility to move with financial orders depending on how the money comes in and how efficiently we can get it out.
So is there a time limit or not?
There is a practical time limit, and that is that we understand Treasury is interested in moving as fast as we can. There is not, to my knowledge, there was a time limit in getting the application in, and that was a very pressure-filled week, 3 weeks ago, because the statement from Treasury was unless they received applications from a state, that money would be lost to the state and would be distributed to those states who had obtained the funds elsewhere. So the simple answer is there is not a statutory limit, but there is every indication from Treasury that they are encouraging a deliberate but rapid approach to getting these funds to consumers who have been affected by COVID.
Thank you. So my second question, again, following up on Representatives Peirce and Fay's comments, is that I would ask you to keep in mind that not everyone has a mortgage. I'm thinking first and foremost about many seniors who have paid off their mortgage, but are facing financial difficulties, paying property taxes, paying homeowners insurance, paying utilities. And so, I mean, I understand that the system may be easier dealing with someone with a mortgage who has gotten a notice of default in identifying those persons. But there are many people who need assistance who don't have a mortgage. The other category is, of course, people who own mobile homes in mobile home parks. And they oftentimes have their mobile home financed, but it's not a mortgage, as you know. It's a security interest because it's not real estate. And so, again, I'm hopeful that as you develop this program that you will keep those two categories in mind and not just focus on people who have mortgages. Thank you.
The point is well taken. Much of that approach is within the purview of the new law itself. In some ways, dealing with municipal taxes and with utility type payments will be easier because at least we know the recipient is here in Maine. One of the challenges of regulating mortgage servicers is that they are 100% located out of state and are difficult to deal with. We're going to have to be careful. We don't just want to send money to the mortgage servicers, even in the case of mortgages. We need to have a deal from them in terms of how that money is going to be accepted and credited to the consumer's account. But your point about taxes and other expenses are well taken, and we will certainly consider that.
It looks like Representative Arata is next, and then Representative Hymanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few questions. Do you happen to know how many notice of defaults you would typically receive in a year before the pandemic?
I can get the number for you this afternoon. It's in the thousands a it's in the thousands each year, at least it was. Things slowed down with the federal moratoria that applied, and so the entire process, the moratoria applied and the courts themselves closed down for most civil actions. So we've had a substantial drop in the last 18 months. I'll get an average figure for you for this afternoon's work session.
All right, thank you. I mean, I did some quick math based on the 18,763 notices and the $15 million that we have for this program. That would only come out to $2,664 per notice of default. I mean, if that's a true reflection of people who've been affected by the pandemic, which sometimes people just simply forget to pay their mortgages. My second question, and I think I understand it now that I've been reading it more, number 5E, down payment assistance loans provided by nonprofit or government entities. I assume that this would be regarding making payments to loans that have already been made, not starting any new assistance loans. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And then my third question regards people who took on additional debt, such as credit card debt, in order to pay their mortgages early on in the pandemic when nobody knew what was going to happen regarding assistance. I believe some people went into credit card debt in order to pay their mortgages. Do you plan to address that at all in any way?
The new federal law seems to tie everything to the inability to pay a mortgage, regardless of how that inability came about. So I think if someone has credit card debt, then that affects their ability to make payments on their mortgages. So we deal every day with consumers who are in a variety of debt problems. We'll continue to do that. I just have to make sure that this particular program is funneled through the definitions and requirements of the program itself.
So if they specifically use their credit card to get a cash advance to pay their mortgage, they should be covered. But if they're just out buying toys, then not so much.
Well, I think the federal government is pretty gun shy these days, because we also have, I also have 30 cases in my office today of SBA fraud, of Maine residents, Maine consumers who receive notices from the SBA thanking them for taking out very large SBA loans that they never did take out. So there are guidelines here about reimbursing for expenses, and so I'm not able to really answer the question. All I know is we have to be relatively careful. This is focused on mortgages, on municipal tax liens, on energy bills, that sort of thing. Issues that failure to pay could result in people being foreclosed upon. But we'll certainly keep all of that in mind, and we know this has affected Maine residents in many different ways.
Right, thank you.
Representative Hymanson?
Thank you. Is there a time limit for the spending?
The everything that I've received from Treasury and in my direct discussions with them, they are strongly encouraging programs to be up and running as quickly as possible. They anticipate, I think, that the bulk of the funds would be out and to Maine residents in the upcoming fiscal year.
I mean, on the other end, spending, and then the money has to be returned if it's not spent.
There are no provisions that I'm aware of for returning funds. The Treasury has set forth kind of a cascading tier of priorities they want us to follow. First is low-income folks. Second are medium to low income. The third, there's a category called disadvantaged consumers who have suffered some measure of discrimination that has led to issues. So I don't think spending the money is going to be a problem. It's going to be spending it correctly. It's going to be making sure that as large a percentage as possible gets to the help. It gets to where it can do the most good.
Thank you. Do you have a sense that the CAP agencies have a standard plan about how to approach this? Because I think, what Senator Bailey and Representative Arata talked about are important, and they go beyond the standard default from a mortgage. So, and I see the CAP agencies as being important in identifying those groups of people. Have they started the conversations that you know about, or you told us that you had some discussions with CAP agencies. How is that network being prepared?
It's fully underway. CAP agencies, many of them have experience doing something that my office does not, and that is providing direct financial assistance to residents. For example, the LIHEAP program, many of those types of assistance programs go through the CAP agencies. And so, first of all, I've been in touch with them. Second of all, they are forming themselves as a way of providing proposals to my office. They want to, having probably dealt with federal funds before, they are cautiously approaching things, as am I. But I'm confident that we're going to be able to work. That's what they do. That's what CAP agencies do. And so I'm relying on them. We've developed relationships with them over the past decade, and I'm counting on that to carry us through this.
Thank you. One more quick question, if I may. I've always heard from the agencies that the paperwork and having to fill forms out and all that administrative burden is something they want to try to avoid. So you mentioned that the administrative burden has to be low, but do you see that working in the feedback and the plans for making sure the money's spent as per the federal guidelines?
It's going to be a balancing act. We want to make sure that folks are who they say they are. We want to make sure that they own their home and that it's not that a corporation doesn't own it. We want to make sure this is their real home and not their vacation home. But so I'm hoping that we have a very basic application process that allows the CAP agencies to make an accurate, fast judgment as to whether these folks are entitled. The problem with the SBA loan situation was Congress wanted those funds sent out very quickly and did what they call lower the guardrails in terms of the usual safety and soundness or usual underwriting decisions. That's why we saw so many loans going to fictional businesses.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Lund or Commissioner Figueroa on this bill? Senator Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Lund. I'm curious, how does one qualify for this? How do they go about applying for it and qualifying for it?
I'm literally going to have a state of Maine up on the map of the state of Maine up on the wall. I'm going to assign different portions of the state to different agencies, Western Maine, Aroostook County, York County, to make sure that was a similar approach as was used with the rental assistance program. Consumers were told, if you live in this county or this county, you call this particular CAP agency and they'll have the information for you. I don't have the resources in this office to receive hundreds of thousands of calls. The CAP agencies do. So the question, how you qualify, the first tier of eligibility deals with folks who are at the median income for Maine or below that. The second is folks who have 150% of income or below that. And as I mentioned, there is a third component of socially disadvantaged folks who also have a priority ranking.
I see. The money, when it's dispersed, will the money be sent to the renter or the individual that's made application, or will it be sent to the mortgage company or the fuel company or wherever it needs to go?
That's a very good question, and it's something that I'll have to see how things work. As you know, if your house burns down, if you get an insurance check, the check doesn't come to you. It may come to you, but it has your name on it and the mortgage company's name on it as well. That's for a reason, and that is that if people get a check in the mail, they tend to spend it on other priorities rather than what it's intended for. So I think ideally, these funds will be sent to the mortgage servicers, to the power companies, to the other utilities, or to even the municipalities if someone is close to a tax lien that is maturing. The difficulty is, the challenge is going to be, if you simply send a check to a mortgage company, they may put it in what's called a suspense account and not apply it to your mortgage. Secondly, receipt of money may make you ineligible for a good program that you're eligible for because you're behind. So it has to be done by people. It has to be a negotiation with these mortgage servicers. That's why I'm hoping that the HUD counselors can work in conjunction with our office to make that all happen. We want this money to reinstate somebody who's in default, get them out of default. We want to stave off a foreclosure if we're close by. And so it's going to have to be, it'll have to be done in effect through a negotiation.
I see. So the money perhaps could be sent to both the lending institution and the homeowner?
That's certainly possible. I know that with the rental program in some states, it was so difficult to get a hold of some landlords that the programs ended up giving funds to the consumers and the renters, and in effect, trusting them to make the payments as they were deemed to be. Consumers sign an agreement that they will spend the funds only as they are supposed to, but those kind of details we'll have to see as we get into it and see how the flow of funds goes.
If I might, Madam Chair, I just have one or two more. Is there any requirement that a person applying for this money, do they have to prove that COVID caused the shortage? Excuse me.
A relationship to COVID is a required part of the program. This was intended to ameliorate the situation, the financial impacts of COVID. So there is a connection there. Folks have to have owned this property on January 1st, I think, of 2020, last year, as the crisis began. And they have to demonstrate, although it may simply be by a statement by the consumer, that their current financial situation is somehow a result of the pandemic.
That has been impacted by the pandemic, if I understand you.
Correct.
The renters program, landlords were told that they couldn't evict people. Perhaps this is more of a statement than it is a question. It seems that perhaps the banks could have been told the same thing. It's just a statement for me. I'm sure the banks would enjoy that. Thank you.
Federally related mortgages, holders of federally owned mortgages have been under one or more moratoria that have been continued several times. So I think if you asked lenders whether they have felt free to foreclose during this 18 months, either by law or by social pressure, we have not seen a lot of foreclosures, as well as the fact that the courts themselves have not been open to accept the civil filings.
I'm sure that's true, sir. But I would also say that probably the landlords would give you the same answer. I don't know of many that have evicted people when they were sick or down and out. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Representative Millet?
You're muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're on mute, Representative Millet.
There you go. Thank you, Madam Chair. Superintendent Lund, good to see you. And just a couple of quick questions. Will, early on in response to a question about whether you received any CARES money, you indicated that you did not, and that the Bureau and or PFR does receive some money from mortgage insurance. Could you put a finer point on that, and in terms of what percent and how much that generates? And I guess more to the point of going forward, would you be willing to share the plan that you have to submit before June 30th with the legislature, so that we could not only see the contractual commitments that you're making, but also the internal cost to the Bureau and the department, and how you arrive at the tiering of local low-income homeowners. So mainly a question about that mortgage insurance, and also your willingness to submit or share the plan as you draft it and submit it. Thank you.
Yes, it's good to see you, Representative Millett. If I said mortgage insurance, I misspoke. The primary funding mechanism for the program is a small portion, I think it's 25% or so, of the transfer tax that is collected when a home in foreclosure is sold and is purchased by the lender. In other words, in many instances in a foreclosure auction, a lender who knows the property will bid what they're owed on their mortgage. They will thereby be the successful bidder. They will take it. There is a transfer tax involved to the state, and a small portion of that, a percentage of that tax, comes to the program to fund the program. I think it's roughly $350,000 a year or $400,000 a year, but we have had traditionally 10 to 14 contracts with nonprofits around the state in which we in effect ask them to have somebody on standby who is paid for with that money, who is prepared to take a case on a moment's notice from our office and provide assistance. With respect to your second question, I would absolutely be willing to share the plans as they come together. The federal government has provided the option of states to establish a pilot program first to sort of get the kinks out and get the flow, to get accustomed to how the flow will happen. I don't know how I feel about that. Pilot programs have pluses and minuses, including all the folks who aren't part of the pilot program who want to be. So my tendency at this point is to consider ramping up the program fully across the state, and I would be delighted to show you the contracts that I have in mind for the CAP agencies, and also the plan itself submitted to Treasury.
Thank you, Will. And you didn't misspeak. I misunderstood the real estate transfer tax being a portion. So thank you very much for that. And thanks for the willingness to share your emerging plan with us.
Any other questions from committee members on this bill? I have a question for Superintendent Lund and for Commissioner Figueroa. We've read that some of the CAP agencies have a backlog of folks looking for rental assistance in various counties because they have to do some staffing up, I believe, in some cases to administer the program. So I'm wondering if you have any concerns about the CAP agency's capacity to start this new program, and if you have a feedback loop so that if they are struggling with capacity to get the applications done, get the outreach, the application, the procedures done, if there's some way we could be kept abreast of that, and maybe if it's allowed under the federal rules, attempt to use some of the funding to make sure that money is going out expeditiously. So I guess my first question is, do you have any concerns about CAP agencies' capacity to start this new program? And number two, is there a feedback loop so that we can find out if they are having problems?
If I could respond, I certainly have, I'm certainly mindful of capacity, and that's going to be one of the issues that we deal with, especially because the countervailing pressure from Treasury is to not spend the funds on overhead, but rather to get it into the homes where it's needed to save those homes. CAP agencies have, I've spoken great number of times with Maine Housing, which is overseeing the rental program. CAP agencies utilize a single software program, and they've been able to permit Maine Housing limited access to that program. So the ramifications or the reason that's important is that Maine Housing can go into that program and can see, for example, what the schedules are, where the backups may be, where the delays may be. My network is going to be broader than just CAP agencies. It will likely include entities like CEI and Avesta that are not CAP agencies in the legal or traditional sense. So I'll have to figure out what the substitute mechanism is for getting that feedback. But you're absolutely right. But that's part of the contract is going to be, there won't be a contract unless the agency can convince us that they'll be able to handle additional workload. And those are some things we'll have to figure out.
Okay, I would request that you keep this committee in the loop if you are finding problems with capacity so that we can try to keep abreast of how this is rolling out.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions on this bill? I'm going to see if there are any members of the public who are here to, I do have one person named Megan Hannon, assuming that she does not work for the DAFS department, and she's probably a member of the public. So I'm going to move her over to the panel and take her comments. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Breen and Representative Pierce. Ladies and gentlemen of the Joint Committee on Appropriations, I'm Megan Hannon, and I know I came through with my Google address, but I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Community Action Partnership, and we support LD 1697. For more than 50 years, Community Action has served as a dynamic and community-based force in addressing the causes and conditions of poverty throughout Maine and the country. Our 10 community action agencies deliver programs and services for people with low and moderate income, including the Home Energy Assistance Program, Workforce Development, the current Rental Relief Program, Head Start, Home Rehabilitation, Weatherization, and more. Given the testimony from Superintendent Lund before me, I have a little to add other than to assure that the nonprofits that are contracted to meet the program demands must be paid to administer it. We have experience with the rental program that we started out not being paid, and we lost a lot of money. In the beginning of the pandemic, we wanted to be part of the solution, so we agreed to administer the program for 1 month without compensation. 1 month turned into 2, and 2 turned into 3. We must pay staff to process applications. We know those staff are working overtime to process the rent relief applications. You've heard about this, and obviously you're bringing it up today. So we're paying them time and a half. Our finance staff are processing twice or more of the checks they usually do through the rental program. I only see the same pattern coming for homeowners. As mentioned, we've had the rental program for more than a year now, but nothing to help homeowners who have lost income due to the pandemic. Please consider the financial health of the nonprofits you plan to contract this program to. We are also in tight times during the pandemic, and working without pay does not meet our very real financial needs. In Treasury guidance, page 4, number 10, it states that funds can be used for planning, community engagement, needs assessment, and administrative expenses related to the HAF participants' disbursement of the funds for qualified expenses in an aggregate amount not to exceed 15% of the funding. We have just begun an outreach and counseling program in our rent relief program and suggest we do the same here with those funds. In addition to the HUD housing counselors, Maine Housing is now contracting a mediation organization, legal services, and 2 BIPOC-led and serving organizations to ensure we're reaching more people and families who need the program. I believe Treasury allows for similar contracts. I have been listening the whole time and heard a whole lot of CAP questions, so I'm happy to answer any that I can today or find answers for you for the work session, which I realize is very soon.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hannon. Any questions from the committee for Ms. Hannon? Representative Hymanson?
I'm going to call my own CAP agency and just, tell them we're circling around this. Do you think that's a good idea?
You know, I've heard a little bit about this. I mean, certainly we knew this program was coming, but I hadn't heard what Superintendent Lunt said, that he'd had conversations with everybody about this, which I'm a little bit surprised by. But yes, I mean, I think they all know it's coming. We've been talking about it, you know, as to the conversation just a few minutes ago about staffing up. I think if we know that we are going to have these contracts, we will start staffing up immediately. The problem has been, as I know you've heard from across the board, people are not getting really good applications. And we've had a lot of cases where somebody is hired, says, okay, I'll see you on Monday, and doesn't show up, or comes on Monday, goes to lunch and doesn't come back. It's been a very strange workforce time during this pandemic. It's nothing I think any of us have ever seen before.
Thank you.
Assuming that this program is going to require the same sort of paperwork that the rental program does, it will take time in order to process the applications, because we need to get things. We're finding, of course, with people with lower income, they don't necessarily have $1,200 smartphones that you can, you know, take a picture of your pay stub or take a quick picture of your rent invoice. So it's been a very time-consuming situation.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Hannon? I would make the same request that I just made to Mr. Lund, Ms. Hannon. Just, you know, if there's, you know, capacity problems, I mean, I think we all share a common interest in getting this relief to the people and the families, the households who need the relief in the most expeditious and efficient way possible. Whatever role you play in this program. So I hope that you will keep in touch and let us know if we're running into snags because of capacity and staffing at your member agencies.
At the beginning of this version of the rent program, we met with Maine Housing twice a week. Now we're at then to once a week, and now we're at once a month to meet as a group, so we can discuss what's going on and where we can streamline, where we can help each other. I mean, we're in situations now where, as wouldn't surprise you, in Portland, the Opportunity Alliance has got lots and lots. So folks from Western Maine who have fewer renters are actually helping staff and run those through the process. So we're helping each other. We're still hiring people and really trying to learn from each other as we move along.
That's fantastic. Great. Any other questions for Ms. Hannon? All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it.
Thank you.
I don't see any other members of the public who are here to attend, so to make comment on this bill. So I will close the public hearing now on LD 1697. Thank you, Superintendent Lund, for joining us today, and we'll look forward to hearing it from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to have another bill in front of us now. Commissioner Figueroa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So now, good afternoon, Senator Breen, Representative Peirce, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Appropriations and Financial Affairs. My name is Kirsten Figueroa. I am the Commissioner of the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. I'm here today to testify in support of LD 1700, an act to provide allocations for the administration of state fiscal recovery funds. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 establishes the State Fiscal Recovery Fund for states to respond to the COVID-19 public health emergency and its negative economic impacts, including by providing assistance to households, small and nonprofit businesses, aid to affected industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality, and assistance to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 pandemic. The state of Maine is expected to receive a bit more than $1 billion of state fiscal recovery funds. This LD establishes the American Rescue Plan Audit, Controller, and Program Management Program within the Department of Administrative and Financial Services and provides for the allocation from the Federal Expenditures Fund, American Rescue Plan State Fiscal Recovery Fund. Funds will be used for all aspects of financial management oversight of funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, including state discretionary and direct funds, as well as the local pass-through funds. Efforts include coordination, processing, tracking, reporting, reconciling, compliance, audit, and program guidance, monitoring, and summarizing. This bill also establishes the American Rescue Plan Economic Workforce and Innovation Program within the Department of Economic and Community Development and provides for an allocation from the Federal Expenditures Fund American Rescue Plan State Fiscal Recovery for preliminary program, metrics, and assessment tool development for economic development, innovation, and workforce programs. Funds may be used for limited period positions, project management, contractors, and consultant support. Failure to create this program and allocation will impede Maine's ability to timely track, reconcile, assess, and report on the funds provided through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Reporting will be significant to meet federal requirements, as well as providing consistent, transparent updates for the Maine legislature and citizens. This concludes my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the commissioner, Representative Peirce and Representative Martin?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Commissioner, good to see you again this afternoon, unfortunately. I am curious, when we received an influx of a lot of federal funds around 2008, 2009, was there something similar that was put into place in order to track and manage the amount of federal funding that was coming through?
Yes, yep, thank you. Exactly what we're talking about here. There were additional staff members hired and some consultants, a team established so that there was significant reporting that was then known as ARA, not to be confused with ARPA. And although we did receive some guidance yesterday, we're still kind of working our way through that. The expectation is this reporting will be the same. And the funding here is a little bit different in that the ARA funds kind of went to specific programs that existed. I mean, ARP is really of a different, the ARA funds were almost like infrastructure, kind of like get people back to work, but in a different way. Like this ARPA has really expanded the programs that they have come out, that the feds are coming out with, the requirements, like we just talked about for over an hour about just one $50 million program. We need staff that will be continuing to look at the guidance, will continue to be able to understand what the expectations are of reporting. We'll be able to provide, we're looking to provide a better version of the website that we tried to put together in-house for CRF, so that there will be one place that we can send everybody for, actually, we're hoping for all the federal funds, but definitely for ARP. And very, very similar to what happened in ARA. We just don't have the capacity. There's more than $14 billion coming through the state in one form or another now, and people want understanding of what's being done with that money, who's receiving it, what's the timeline, what is the expectation, and our current capacity we just don't have the capacity with our current staff.
And just a quick follow-up, Madam Chair, if I may. So certainly appreciate the tremendous amount of work that you did just with the people that you had in place when the pandemic started with the CARES Act. So I can completely understand the need to ramp up as we get sort of this next influx of addressing the pandemic and the public health issues that come along with that and the economic issues. ARA was a little different, where it was just a financial meltdown versus a public health meltdown that covered a lot of other areas. So, but I want to make clear to any public that might be watching, these funds come from within the money that we receive from the American Rescue Plan, the ARPA funds, correct? It's not coming from the state general fund or any other mechanism. They help us pay for the administrative analysis that needs to be done around the money that they're sending us.
Yeah, that's correct. This allocation will be coming out of the $1 billion of discretionary funds. There are in the guidelines that had already existed before the extra guidelines that I don't really have a lot of detail on yet that we just received last night. There is an expectation that states will use some of these funds to help administer the various programs coming into the state. And I do want to say that CARES Act was a little different in that they allowed us to kind of treat the CARES Act money just more like a federal grant program, where ARPA is meant, at least what we heard preliminarily, was that ARPA was going to have more of an ARA reporting to it. Because as a reminder, the CARES Act had more, right? It was 1 year. CRF had a very tight timeline. And these funds are more like ARA in that they're going to extend for 3, or even in that homeowners assistance program, as far as we can see, there really isn't an end date to it. There is an expectation that they spend the money now, but that doesn't even have an end date. So that's why we're expecting that this reporting will be different and more intense.
Thank you. I look forward to the continued conversations around the guidance and how we're administering all of these funds. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks like Representative Fay has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is about the second part of the bill, which creates the workforce and innovation program within DECD. I was wondering if we could know just a little bit more about what that is going to look like, and maybe even not just now, but as we're being kept in the loop on some of the other program development, I would be very curious to know what the thinking might be around that. Specifically, we have a pretty serious shortage in certain sectors of our economy, and I want to just understand how these funds are going to be going to address that. I guess that's how I'll phrase it.
So thank you for the question. Like, there are 2 different components to this in that, first of all, I just want to say that we are, as we rolled out the administration's thoughts on the $1 billion discretionary funds, we are in the process of figuring out how we're going to work through that document, and however, right, that connection and collaboration with the legislature and how that lands. We are looking at more like $20 million to administer these funds. But this is just a small component of that so that we can just get started. We asked if we could get a little bit of funding. We're already feeling a little bit behind. And so both funds, though, are meant to be administrative, and the funds that are in DAFs are for the reporting, the accounting, the tracking, the processing. And then these funds, regardless of how the buckets end up, no doubt this $1 billion will be spent on workforce, economic, either recovery or investment, and some innovation. And so we need to get started on what are those metrics? How are people, regardless of how we're really feeling, like what specifics we're doing, people are going to want us to report on how do you know that you met the target. So this is allowing the Department of Economic and Community Development and GOPIF, the Governor's Office of Policy, Innovation, and Future, to reach out to a consultant and get some ideas so that as we're working through these initiatives with the legislature, we'll all be able to understand what are the things that we want to track, what are the metrics, how do we make sure we're collecting the information that you're asking for so that we can report back in that way. And so it's a little bit more about the program side of it, but still not, it's not, if you understand, it's not we're not creating the program here, we're more creating how do we make sure we can tell you that the program is working part of it. And we want to get a leg up on that so that we feel like we have some answers while we're having the discussions with you. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, good.
Any other questions? Oh, Representative Martin, sorry, go right ahead.
Thank you. To follow up a little bit to Representative Pierce's question or comments, and the Act does provide for monies for staff that are, and I'm wondering, have you been successful in being able to recruit the people you need, or what do you perceive the possibility of running into trouble with that?
Well, of course, we haven't been able to recruit because we don't really have access to these funds until you allocate them, which is
Right.
why we're here. But also, I think in the beginning, we're actually going to reach out to consultants more than try to find limited period positions for exactly that reason. I think they have some different capacity right now. We are watching other states kind of use these firms. That is how we started with ARA, and get so that they could help us maybe set up some frameworks, and then we could add and complement with limited period positions as we move along. But
Okay.
I think in the beginning, I think we're looking at consultants.
Question perhaps in a different direction. When do you expect the monies to the communities to be dispersed?
Well, that is a good question. I think now's around the time that we're meant to get the first payment. Is that right? Yep. I don't believe that we've received it, but I might be out of date. I have a 2:30 meeting to talk a little bit about the email we got yesterday on the more in-depth guidance. But as a reminder, the feds were supposed to send it within 60 days, and we're supposed to get it out within 30 days of receipt. We were waiting for more guidance on that. We did have had a conversation with MMA about how to be most expeditious with that, but we were all saying we also need to make sure that we know what the parameters are. But we've had the conversations about getting the towns the numbers that they need, the DUNS numbers, the SAMS numbers, as well as starting work on the one-pager attestation that we'll need from each town. So I feel like we've made some progress. We're still kind of in a holding pattern while we confirm the final details of what the feds are planning. But
yeah, I am hoping.
Our goal is the 30 days.
Yeah, I am hoping that they'll also get a letter or letters indicating the parameter that they are to operate under, so that, you know, we really don't want to have a mess created.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions on this bill? Representative Millet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In response to Representative Martin's question, and I suspect that others may know this, Maine Municipal Association did jump on the guidance that came through yesterday, put out a fairly high level, but I thought detailed explanation of what the funds could be used for, arrange for webinars with their legal staff, et cetera. So I think that the information is getting out there that we all hope would get out by yesterday's deadline. But I do think that Representative Martin's question is really important, that we make sure that the monies flow appropriately, quickly, and are used properly in the time frame that Commissioner Figueroa has mentioned, on or before the next 30 days that I think run out on June 9th. And one last question.
Staffing will help with that.
What's that?
I said allowing us to staff up will definitely help with that.
Yeah, and I'm not questioning the 1 and the 2, or even the 1.6 for DECD. I know you have to move, and I guess I wanted to ask the question before we go into work session: is it the intent of the chairs that if we work these bills, they would be on an agenda, presumably next week, before the full session at the Civic Center, maybe on the 19th. Is that part of the plan?
I'm not sure what you mean by an agenda. I think if we have work session this afternoon and we vote them out, that they will then take on, they will go through the process at our next session day.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The next session day. Is that
Okay.
still undecided? Even though I know we were told that it could be on the 19th.
I want to make sure we are focusing on the public hearing for this bill. And I certainly can answer that question if I'll do that right now, which is we don't know. I don't have any further information about our next session day.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the commissioner on this bill? All right. I am aware that the Treasury did issue its guidance and its FAQs yesterday. I'm sure there's a lot of digesting that has to happen on that, and hopefully getting the DAF's department some more staff to help with digesting, disseminating, will be all, again, in the shared interest of all of us, kind of no matter where we sit, in getting this money to its intended recipients. So I think, is there anybody who needs any information from the DAS commissioner before we come back at 1 o'clock to vote on these two bills? Okay, I am not seeing any requests. So thank you, Commissioner. We will see you back here at 1 p.m. And I will close the public hearing now for LD 1700. All right, so we will be back at 1 and look forward to it. Any questions or concerns before we sign off and come back at 1? Okay, thank you all. See you soon.
Test.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll just give people a few minutes to get online.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to Appropriations in the Maine Legislature. We are here to do a work session and hopefully take some votes on LD 1697 as well as LD 1700. I would just check in with members to see if there are any questions or comments before we hear motions. Not seeing any. Representative Peirce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion of ought to pass for LD 1697.
And can I just interject, and there'll be a fiscal note on it, so it would be amended to add the fiscal note.
Ought to pass as amended. LD 1697.
Is there a second?
Second.
So seconded by Senator Bailey. Any questions, discussion on
Madam Chair.
LD? Yes, Representative Fecteau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I plan to support the motion. I guess my only concern is the massive amounts of federal spending that we've been doing under these last two administrations. And I hope we don't get to a point where inflation and the cost of living rises to a point where we're using other federal funds to then save those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on LD 1697 and on the motion? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I would ask Mary Ann to come on and take the roll.
All right, Senator Breen.
Aye.
Senator Bailey.
Yes.
Senator Davis. Senator Davis.
I think you're on mute, Senator Davis.
All right, I'll skip.
Moffett. Yes.
Representative Peirce.
Yes.
Representative Fay.
Yes.
Representative Corey.
Yes.
Representative Arata.
Yes.
Representative Martin.
Yes.
Representative Cloutier.
Yes.
Representative Millet.
Yes.
Representative Cardone.
Yes.
Representative Fecteau.
Yes.
All right, 12 members voting in the affirmative, 1 member absent.
Thank you very much, Mary Ann. So I'm going to close the work session on LD 1697. I'll now open the work session on LD 1700. Maureen, are there any comments or anything we need to know about this before we proceed?
No, once again, this will probably include the fiscal note because of the allocation. So That's the
But
only-
since they're not general fund, we don't need to exempt them from the table. Is that correct?
Under your current guidelines, you are not sending federal allocations to the table.
Representative Peirce, would you like to make a motion? You're on mute.
You'd think we'd all get there, right? I move ought to pass as amended LD 1700.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Cloutier. Any discussion? Not seeing any raised hands. Mary Ann, would you please call the roll?
Senator Breen,
Aye.
Senator Bailey,
Yes.
Senator Davis,
Yes.
Representative Peirce,
Yes.
Representative Fay,
Yes.
Representative Corey,
Yes.
Representative Arata,
Yes.
Representative Martin,
Yes.
Representative Cloutier,
Yes.
Representative Millet,
Yes.
Representative Cardone,
Yes.
Representative Fecto.
Yes.
12 members voting in the affirmative, 1 member absent.
Great. Thank you, Mary Ann. That concludes our work session on LD 1700. So we are, I believe, we're doing some work to get ready. Maureen, I'm not sure if we've looped you into this to have a work session on Thursday on the HHS report back, the initial HHS report back for LD 221. So we're hoping to do that Thursday at 10 o'clock. All right. Madam Co-Chair?
Just a reminder of our work session for LD 221 on Friday. Did you say that at 1 o'clock? Did I space that out? Did you
say that? Go right ahead and say it.
Sorry. Just that we'll be doing a work session on Friday at 1 o'clock for LD 221. We anticipate that Commissioner Figueroa will be here with her change package.
Great. Maureen, anything else before we sign off?
No, I think you're all set, Senator.
All right.